Ladies and gentlemen, when life shatters your plans, you realize who truly stands by you. In failure, the world turns silent, no applause, no shoulders to cry on. But the moment you rise, when you shine again, suddenly they all return smiling, clapping, calling themselves your friends. No one is your friend until you win. Until you matter, until you're useful, and that's the bitter truth wrapped in glitter. But remember, your worth isn't defined by their applause. It's defined by how you rise when no one is watching. True friendship is revealed in failure. This simple sentence carries within it the weight of countless lived experiences, silent heartbreaks, and the quiet truths we only understand when everything falls apart. In moments of success, the world gathers around you like moths to a flame, smiling faces, warm embraces, congratulatory words, and the illusion that you're surrounded by people who genuinely care. But success is a magnet. It attracts applause, admiration, and attention, often more for what you represent than for who you truly are. When you are rising, when the spotlight is on you, everyone wants to be a part of your journey. They want to share your stage, speak your name, attach their worth to your presence. In these times, friendship seems easy, effortless even. There are no hard conversations, no need to test loyalty, no room for doubt. Everything feels light, but it is a fragile kind of togetherness, one that hasn't been weathered, one that hasn't yet seen the storm. Then life shifts. Things don't go as planned. You fail in business, in relationships, in health, in your dreams. And with that failure, the room that once echoed with cheer becomes eerily quiet. Messages slow down. Calls are unanswered. The people who once posted about you, supported you publicly, and laughed by your side are suddenly occupied, distant, gone. This is where the truth begins to show itself. Because it is not your strength that reveals your real friends, it is your weakness. Failure is uncomfortable. It demands presence, not performance. It strips away the glamour and shows us as we are vulnerable, unsure, sometimes even broken. And it's here that true friendship is tested. Not everyone is willing to sit in the discomfort of your pain. Not everyone can handle the silence that comes with your sadness, or the weight of your questions, or the darkness that follows a dream collapsing. Those who stay, who call when they don't need anything, who listen without trying to fix you, who believe in you even when you doubt yourself, those are the ones who are never clapping for your success. They were loving your soul. They are the ones who see you not as a project or a possession, but as a human being. Their friendship doesn't shrink when your name isn't shining. It expands. It becomes a source of warmth, of grounding, of truth. Sometimes, failure teaches you more about people than any moment of success ever could. It shows you who is willing to walk through the fire with you, even if they get burned in the process. It shows you who can sit with your silence, who won't rush your healing, who won't shame your brokenness. It shows you who sees you, really sees you beyond the titles, the wins, the image. And in that space, you also learn about yourself. You learn what kind of friend you've been to others. You learn what you need, what you deserve, and what you can no longer accept. You begin to understand the importance of depth over decoration, of presence over praise. You begin to value those few rare souls who don't need you to win in order to love you well. In a world that often only celebrates outcomes, failure becomes the sacred space where authenticity is born. It strips away the masks people wear, the ones of loyalty, support, and connection, and reveals what lies underneath. And that, while painful, is a gift, because once you've seen the truth, you can no longer be fooled by noise. You learn to recognize the quiet strength of someone who chooses you, even when you have nothing to offer but your honesty and your effort. You realize that friendship is not about frequency but about presence, not about how often someone shows up when things are good, but how deeply they stay when everything feels like it's falling apart. You stop chasing people who only cheer when you're winning, and you start honoring the ones who whisper, "I'm here," when you're losing. This truth that real friendship is revealed in failure becomes a mirror. It shows you who you want beside you in life's hardest moments, and it gently pushes you to become that kind of friend for others. It's not easy. It asks for emotional labor, for time, for uncomfortable conversations, for showing up when you'd rather disappear. But it's worth it, because once you've tasted that kind of loyalty, quiet, steady, unconditional, you can't go back to shallow connections. You begin to build relationships not on convenience but on truth. You become more intentional, more discerning, and strangely, more hopeful. Because even though the crowd may disappear when you fall, the ones who remain, the ones who stay, are gold. There may not be many. In fact, true friendship is rare, but it doesn't need to be loud or large to be real. One friend who sees you fully and loves you still is worth more than 100 who only know your highlight reel. One hand reaching for yours in your lowest moment can restore your faith in humanity in a way that no trophy ever could. So, the next time you find yourself in a place of failure, when the lights are off, when your name isn't being celebrated, when you feel like the world has forgotten you, pay close attention. Look around. Listen to who still calls your name, not for what you can do, but for who you are. Let that be your compass. Let that be the beginning of something real. Self-worth comes from within, not applause. It's easy to forget this in a world that constantly measures value in numbers, likes, followers, awards, praise. We are taught, almost from the beginning, to equate being seen with being worthy, to believe that if others approve of us, we must be doing something right. The classroom rewards the student who scores highest. The workplace praises the employee who meets targets. Society celebrates those whose names echo in conversations. And so, somewhere along the way, we start to believe that if no one is clapping, then we must not matter. But applause is fleeting, it's conditional. It often arrives when we are performing, when we're wearing our best masks, when we've shaped ourselves to fit what others want. It rarely stays when the show is over, when the makeup fades, when we are simply ourselves. And yet, how many of us chase it? How many of us spend our lives trying to be enough, not in our own eyes, but in the eyes of others? How many decisions are made not because they bring peace, but because they bring validation? The truth is, self-worth has nothing to do with applause. It isn't about how many people admire you, or how loudly they cheer, or how wide their smiles stretch when you walk into a room. Self-worth is quieter. It doesn't need witnesses. It's the voice inside you that says, "I am enough," even when no one else is saying it. It's the inner grounding that holds you steady when praise disappears. It's what keeps you whole when the world overlooks you. Real self-worth can't be given by others because what others give, they can also take away. If you rely on applause to feel valuable, then you will crumble the moment it stops. You will bend yourself to meet the expectations of everyone around you, and in the process you will lose touch with who you truly are. You will forget what makes your soul feel alive, what brings you joy, what kind of life feels true to you, not to the audience, but to the person behind the curtain. There is nothing wrong with being appreciated. It feels good to be acknowledged, but it becomes dangerous when our identity depends on it. When we need people to notice us just to feel okay, we hand them the power to define us. And when they turn away, as people often do, not because you failed, but because they're distracted, busy, or chasing their own applause, we feel abandoned, empty, invisible. That's why it's vital to turn inward, to ask the hard questions. Who am I when no one is watching? What do I love, even when there's no reward? What matters to me, even if no one else sees its value? These are the questions that lead us back to ourselves. These are the questions that remind us we don't need to perform to be worthy. When self-worth comes from within, we stop comparing our lives to others. We stop measuring our worth in timelines, milestones, or applause meters. We start honoring our pace, our truth, our story. We begin to find meaning in the small, quiet moments, the ones that don't get posted, the ones that aren't broadcast, but still feel deeply right. We start choosing joy over approval, purpose over popularity, peace over performance. This shift is not always easy. It takes time to unlearn the patterns that taught us to equate visibility with value. It takes courage to walk away from the applause and sit in silence with yourself. But it's in that silence that clarity is born. You begin to see which parts of you were real and which were shaped just to please. You begin to rebuild your worth on a foundation that doesn't shake when the crowd moves on. When self-worth is internal, failure doesn't destroy you. Rejection doesn't define you. Criticism doesn't paralyze you, because you know who you are even when others don't understand you. You know what you bring to the table, even if the world hasn't recognized it yet. You trust your own heart, your own process, your own truth. And that is the kind of strength that cannot be taken away. You also begin to stop seeking people who only reflect admiration. You start surrounding yourself with those who value you beyond the surface, the ones who see you when you're quiet, who believe in you when you're unsure, who love you without needing a performance. And most importantly, you become that person for yourself. You become your own cheerleader, your own comfort, your own safe place. There is something incredibly powerful about waking up and knowing that your worth doesn't need to be proven today. That you don't need to earn rest, earn love, or earn validation. You simply are worthy by existing, by being human, by showing up in the world with kindness and courage. That truth, once it is truly believed, changes everything. It changes how you walk through the world. It changes the energy you give and the energy you accept. It makes you more grounded, more present, more at peace. The applause will come and go. People's opinions will rise and fall. But your worth, the deep, steady sense of being enough, that can be constant. If you choose to build it from within, if you choose to water it daily with truth and compassion, it becomes unshakable. You'll still hear the noise around you, but you won't need it to stand tall. You'll still receive praise, but it won't define you. And when the applause fades, as it always does, you'll still have yourself, whole, rooted, and worthy. When the lights dim and the applause fades, what truly remains is the relationship you have with yourself. Real self-worth isn't earned through recognition, it's built in silence, through self-respect, through knowing who you are beyond performance. When you stop chasing approval and start embracing your own truth, you become unshakable. Because the most powerful applause you will ever hear is the quiet voice inside that says, I am enough. Even when no one else is listening,